Hey there, I'm Debra and Clement, and I want to talk about the upcoming Mars cycle. On Thursday, May 13th, transiting Mars is going to exit Aquarius and it's going to move into Pisces, where it's going to remain until June 27th. So let's talk about the influence that we're going to be feeling in general first while it's here. Well, Mars, it's active. It can be a little combative, right? It's about initiative and, well, let's be honest, it's definitely ego-driven. And here it is, it's going into Pisces. Now, Pisces is a gentle sign. It's receptive, it's peaceful, and it's humble. So on the collective level, while Mars is moving through Pisces, we're going to be learning a lesson about surrender. That we may be ready to pull the trigger on something. We're ready to get out there and do things. And we are just going to have to take that breath and quite frankly not have that control and just surrender to whatever the higher power is, or the authority, so to speak, that we just don't have that absolute control to just go break right out of the gate the way we would like to. What else are we going to learn about? Well, Mars is in Pisces. It's about compassion, right? It's about compassion, sympathy. It's about empathy. And that's something else in the weeks to come, as a situation, right, changes, as numbers come out, our friends, our family. Some of us are going to need more help than others, but you may have friends who maybe they're out of work, they need a hand. And I'm talking financially or just emotionally, right? Think about that. People, who've been isolated. So during the coming weeks, not that we haven't experienced this already, but in the coming weeks between May 13th and June 27th, these matters are going to become a lot more prominent, and all of us on some level is going to, like I say, be exposed or learn a lesson about compassion. Now, Mars energizes, right, whatever it touches. So while it's in Pisces, it can absolutely help develop or encourage or trigger intuition, right? Anything to do that's intuitive, because that's very Pisces. But Pisces is also creative. So it can be a very creative time for some of you. And by creative, it could certainly be creative, like, you're painting, you're drawing, you do something artistic. It could also be creative thinking because, Pisces is associated with vision. And so having Mars in Pisces, right, it can be very visionary, maybe a time you're going to think about, your future, right? Hey, Pisces rules imagination. So it is a really good time to, I'm just going to say, to think, to expand your consciousness. If you want to do a spiritual pursuit, that's great. But do keep one thing in mind about Pisces, because as much as we talk about imagination, we like to think of it in the most positive sense, but imagination can go the other way as well. And the truth is, as a natural ruler of the 12th house, depression, anxiety, guilt, fear. So do be aware that during this time, don't let your imagination or your fear, let's say, I hate to say let it run away from you, but do stop at times if you're feeling really fearful and think to yourself, is it really that bad? Is it really that realistic? I mean, maybe talk to somebody else about it. Maybe write the situation down and then read it and say, God, yeah, it's as bad as it seems. Or, God, maybe I made too much of it when I see it in black and white. Or, you know what? It's not that bad. Now, of course, bigger question is, what will transiting Mars in Pisces, how is it going to influence you and your life, right? And again, the principle of Mars is to energize what it touches. And that means it is going to activate life areas in whatever house it happens to be visiting in your particular, horoscope. So that means that in some life area, okay, you're going to be stepping up. You're going to be taking some type of concrete action, maybe being more assertive, because Mars can be assertive. It's not always quite combative, but it's definitely assertive in connection with one or more of the life areas that Mars is energizing. So where are you likely to be proactive while Mars is in Pisces? Well, let's get started. So if your sun sign, if you are born under Aries, right, Mars is visiting your 12th house. Now, it's the 12th house, we say, of secrets, of past lives, healing, intuitive abilities, creativity. But I'm going to say to you that Mars is going to be activating these areas 12th house is also connected to sleep. So I'm just going to say, not to put this thought in your head, but if you do find you have interrupted sleep or a little bit of insomnia during this time, it is likely the energy of Mars. The other thing is this, we talk about secrets. Yeah, but I want you to think of this. It's things that are hidden. Mars in the 12th house, just be aware if something is bothering you, not for you to keep it hidden, not for you to keep it inside, because it will just fester, all right? It will just fester and either you'll explode, right, in some type of an argument, or it'll come out physically. Quite frankly, it'll come out physically some way on you, whether it's just that it's the anxiety, right, anxiety producing or whatever. So do keep that in mind. Now, in terms of action and what might you, I don't know, be interested in, by all means, you may decide to look within. 12th house is a psychological house, right? And we talk about the emotions. So it could be a time when the emotions could be a little stronger than usual. If you have a temper, it's shorter than usual. And if you don't have a temper, it might be, you might feel more, just more emotional in general. I'm not going to say you're going to sit and cry, but you may find that you feel more emotional. Just keep these things in mind and think of what steps you can take to it. Well, depending on what works for you, it might be meditation, it might be something that distracts you, but anything you can do to sort of relieve the tension, right? And that includes physical. That includes something physical, all right? And it could be something like yoga, which is simple, or it could be something much more active. 12th house, Pisces rules dancing. So all jokes aside, if you're feeling like you've got a lot of energy, you know, you're cooped up in the house, put on some music and, you know, shake your booty, okay? No one's around to see you, and if they are, but what do they say? Dance like nobody is watching. Now, if you are born under Taurus, Mars is visiting your solar 11th house. Now that's, we say your hopes, your goals, your friends, casual friends, right? Colleagues in any type of group relationships. So Mars is going to be here until June 27th. And hopefully, with Mars in your 11th house, you may actually be able to take some action and have a little group gathering, depending, of course, where you live, right, and what the rules are at the time. But for some of you, you might be a little bit lucky that way. And also, when it comes to casual friends, I'm going to say, or casual connections, if you've been lonely or you're not really, you know, that well connected, or you don't have people you're speaking to often, you might decide, hey, I've got to connect with someone. So it doesn't have to be your best friend for life, doesn't have to be, you know, a great new love affair. Maybe you're going to get on an app, maybe you're going to join some online group, okay, or these chat groups, or and I'm talking about these sometimes common interests. At least I hear about them. Honestly, I don't participate in any of them. But you may look for some more online activities. I'm sure there are new ones cropping up all the time. But that may be a way that you take some action. Now, Mars can be, well, inflammatory. And so I am going to say to you, when it comes to interaction with other people, including, you know, again, friends, or if you're working with people, even if you're working at home, just be aware that the Mars energy can be a little bit more aggressive. Not necessarily mean that you will be more aggressive, but possibly a colleague, right, or someone that you work with, you know, could get on your nerves, quite frankly, a little bit more now than others at other times. And of course, goals. What are your goals? And depending on where you are, right, you may certainly be evaluating things, even if you're in a job and you're secure, and you might be fine. But I think a lot of you, in general, not even if you don't have Mars in the 11th house, but especially if you do, you may be really looking at your long-term goals. And that may not just be your professional goals, all right, or your professional hopes. You might be looking at where you live and thinking, you know what, maybe I want to get out of this urban area. Maybe I want to go someplace where it's not quite so dense. So this energy may stimulate, you know, thoughts along that line. Now, if you are born under Gemini, right? Yeah, every star is Gemini. If you're born under Gemini, well, Mars is visiting your solar 10th house. Now, that's your career. It's your boss. It's your status, right? Your reputation. And so think of it this way, and I'm just going to say Mars in the 10th house, by all means, you can be taking action connected to your career. There could be changes, okay? Action happening connected to your career. Perhaps somebody above you, there could be a change at the top. You might hear of a different organization, for example. Things may be reorganized. You may start hearing a lot of talk of, if you are going back to work, how things are going to be set up. And so there may be some new rules, some new regulations, because 10th house, we say it's your boss, it's authority. So I think you can probably expect to hear, okay, to get some rules, some regulations, maybe from the board of, if it's a big company, board of directors, but you'll hear some things being issued. Now, on more of a personal level, and depending on what your situation is, if you've been laid off or you've been furloughed, well, you'd expect to hear some action, certainly furloughed. Are you coming back? Are you not? And either way, all right, taking action connected to your job, either to getting a new position or possibly doing something you want to make sure that you're, keeping a secure, right? A secure job. But 10th house is a little bit more, we talk about the career and also the calling. So for some of you, whatever your situation is, Mars is activating it. And regardless of your situation, you might be thinking to yourself, what do I want to do? Really, kind of, what do I want to do with my career, my calling? Maybe if you're not satisfied, Mars will stimulate this area and is going to show you, you're not that happy doing what you've been doing. And you will feel that urge a bit to plan, to do something, a little different. And there's where that Pisces comes in. The vision, the imagination, to really think and says, what will make me feel happy? Now, if you are born under Gemini, transiting Mars is in your, it will be in your solar 9th house. Now, 9th house, higher knowledge, right? All kinds of knowledge. That includes, right, universities, education. It's also travel, long distance or foreign travel, legal matters, and the media, especially publishing. So for some of you, I'm just going to say with Mars being in the 9th house, and again, depending on where, depending on your circumstances, depending on your work, depending where you live, you may be able between now and June 27th, if you've had some travel plans, they may actually, maybe they'll come to fruition. Maybe you'll be actually doing some traveling, and it may be work related. It may be going to visit a family. It's not necessarily, cut and dried what it will be. And if it's a vacation, well, that's fantastic. But again, like I say, it's going to depend on certainly where you are and of course, right, where we are just in general in connection with COVID-19. But education's a big one. So on the one hand, some of you may feel moved to say, hey, I want to take a workshop. Maybe you're bored. Maybe you're just, right, you're home all the time. And again, also some interaction, stimulate the knowledge. And for those of you who are, maybe you're in college, maybe you're going for this college degree, master's degree, trying to think of that. You might be even thinking, geez, should I go to school? If the job market is bad, maybe it pays for me to go to school, for the next year or two, get a master's degree, depending again what happens, or I heard something about some university cutting their tuition. Don't remember where it was. It was not New York, I can tell you that. But the point is, you might be taking some action along that way. Even if the action is just researching it and seeing what else is going on. For those of you, again, who are currently enrolled, right, in higher education, you can expect some action, to hear some news of what is happening, okay? May not hear about it like by May 15th, but let's say by June 27th, some information. What is happening in September, right? What is happening? Are you going back? And how are you going back, right? Is everyone going back in person? Are we split sessions? What are we doing? So there may be some action, some news that you'll be hearing around that time. And if you are born under Leo, so if you're born under Leo, transiting Mars is in your 8th house. Now that's a house of intimacy. So that can actually be kind of spicy. That's good. And it is also the house, though, of other people's money, we say. It's other people's support and shared resources, and also, let's say, transformation. So got a lot going on there. So if Mars is going through, if you're born under Leo and Mars, is in your 8th house, one of the ways you might be taking some action in a more sort of a concrete way, definitive way, is seeking out, I'm going to say, other people's support and resources. And by that, I mean their support could be referrals, giving them a resume if you need a job, all right? Also, that's a good one. But also for other people's money and resources that can also be connected to, hopefully, if you have been waiting for unemployment, hopefully after Mars goes into your 8th house, that will come through, or any other type of benefits or loans. If you've got a business, you've applied for one of those loans, maybe you will hear from it. If you have not, made some applications during this time, you may say, hey, what am I waiting for? If I can, let me make the application and see what happens. The other thing about the 8th house, the shared resources, right? So what that means is that, okay, if you're in a relationship, let's say you have a partner, there can be some action or I'm going to use the word action or news connected to their income. Okay, I'm not saying it's for better or for worse, but it could be connected to a partner if you are partnered. The other thing, 8th house, I know I'm forgetting something. Oh, transformation. So the 8th house, and it's a psychic house, so I can also say, intuitive work, right? But transformation, 8th house research, getting to the heart of things. So you may really feel compelled, all right, that whatever it is you want to know, you want to learn, you want to study, you want to research, all right, it's a good time to do it because you'll have this energy, you'll have this drive. And it may be that what you're researching, okay, it might be something certainly of a financial nature because 8th house is about money and it's about loans, it's about grants, it's about scholarships. So if that's an issue, you might be doing more work and it might be for you, or again, it might be for your kids, right? If you got kids who are going to be going to college either in September or whenever, this Mars is a time to say, hey, how am I going to do this? Okay, can also be doing research into investments, things of that nature. And the transformation, I do want to say, so if you have not been happy in any area of your life, okay, when Mars goes into the 8th house, another psychological house, quite frankly, you'll feel it. You'll feel it because Mars, let's face it, it rules anger, right? It's anger. And so if you haven't been happy, it could be frustrating for you, all right? So to keep that in mind. Now, with the transformation, you may really feel like, wow, I am ready. I am ready. I am ready. I've got to change my life. Got to change my life tomorrow. Actually, right, because you wanted to change it yesterday, but you'll settle for tomorrow. Thing is this, Mars is in Pisces. And so it is about, to some degree, surrender. All right, it is about taking that breath and just stepping back. And I'm not saying just let everything be, because of course you need to take some, right? We say inspired action, but that's what Mars in Pisces should be, right? Inspired action. Now, if you were born under Virgo, transiting Mars, well, it's visiting your 7th house, committed relationships. So here's the thing. Mars, again, it can stimulate. You could connect with people, maybe start a new relationship. But Mars can be combative. So you can also, if you're in a relationship, and besides a partner maybe that you're living with, even close friends, quite frankly, when Mars is in the 7th house, we can be a little more on edge, a little bit more, I'm going to use the word argumentative, or they may be a little bit more argumentative. For whatever reason, they just may be getting on your last nerve. You might be getting on their last nerve. So to keep that in mind, if you've got Mars in the 7th house, you may need a lot more patience. Now, Mars is not known for patience, but again, it's in Pisces, right? And Pisces is pretty chill, right? It's a chill sign. It sort of goes with the flow. It's a mutable sign. So it's adaptable, it's flexible. And that may be one of the lessons, quite frankly, that you are going to be learning while Mars is going through the 7th house. Because at the end of the day, we talk about lessons and we talk certainly about Saturn, right, and karma, but everything is a lesson. And that's why we're here, right, to exert our free will, which is very Mars, right, our action, but, and the sun, right, the conscious will, but it is really about learning. The other thing about the 7th house, it is our adversaries, our competitors. And so again, not that I think you all have a whole bunch of, competitors or adversaries, but if there are any, there might be some, they may come out of the woodwork, I'm just going to say at that time, or it's possible you may be a little bit more competitive. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, let's be honest here. But if you need to rise to the occasion, and it might be that you're competing for something, well, the Mars will certainly give you that drive to do it, being in the 7th house. Now, if you're born under Libra, right? Yeah. Libra's next. Okay, Mars is visiting your 6th house. Now that is work, that is health, right? We say it's service and it's your pets. So I'm going to start with the pets and just say if Mars is going through your 6th house, it could be that you get a pet, but it may be that one of your pets may need some attention. I don't mean they're going to be terribly sick, but just keep an eye For pets, if there's anything, a lot of scratching or anything, especially if it's allergy season, hot spots, because Mars is connected, right, to anything, to inflammation, also to infection. And Mars in the 6th house, you can be a workaholic. Got to be honest. So if you have a lot to get done, it's good. It can really help you. The thing about it is that, as I mentioned, infection, right? You don't want to get run down. So if what's something constructive with Mars in the 6th house, really look at your health, look at your diet, look at your exercise routine, because 6th house, right, nutrition, and this is a great energy to concrete action. What might you step up and do is, again, change the diet, look at some things. You might have to eliminate some foods, right, from your diet. Now, the other thing about the health with Mars on the positive side, if you have been feeling stressed in particular, right? Physical exercise. If you cannot get out of your house, right? If you don't have an area where you can go, I'm just saying walk or run, or let's say you just don't like it, find something in the house to do to burn off that steam. You might exercise in your home, maybe you watch something, I don't know, on your phone, on a video, but just something. And again, I'm going to mention, because Mars is in Pisces, that dance aerobics and all that kind of stuff, all right, that falls right into Pisces. So does music. So the music can be very soothing. But keep an eye, when I say keep an eye on health, not that, oh my God, anything terrible is going to happen, but you want to make sure your resistance is strong, because if you push yourself too much, if you burn the candle at both ends, when Mars is in the 6th house, you'll get all your work done. And then it's like, all of a sudden, it's like, who pulled my power pack out? Okay, so just keep that in mind. Now, in terms of work, depends again on where you are. It could be that you are going back to work, right? If you've been furloughed for a while, right? Maybe you're going back to work. And if you've been laid off, maybe you'll be getting a job. Either way, if that is an issue for you, you can certainly count that from May 13th, when Mars goes into the 6th house, that is going to be a focus for you in terms of taking action. Now, Libra. No, I just did Libra. I'm sorry, we did Libra, right? 6th house. Okay, so Scorpio. So Scorpio. All right, if you're born under Scorpio, Mars is visiting, it's been a long day. Mars is visiting your solar 5th house. Fun, right? It's the house of fun. It's the house of romance. That is really a creative self-expression. Of course, it's kids. So on a positive side, right, Mars in the 5th house, that can stir up romance, right? Passion. And that's a really good thing. So if you're in a relationship, it's great, and especially if it's been kind of boring or something, that can rekindle it. You might meet someone. All right. So there's some good things there. But again, you got to watch with Mars, because it can also be a little, you might bicker a little bit. You might have some fights. If you do, don't get crazy over it. Remember, hey, Mars is in my 5th house. It's an expression of the energy. And it's not to say to go overboard, but just do keep that in mind, that it is the energy. And that's the whole thing about knowing about this, is that so we are aware of it. And we might, think before we speak or think before we act. Children. So children could also be more active than usual. Okay, so if you have kids, your own kids, I'm just going to say, or if you watch somebody else's children, they're probably maybe a little bit more active, need more attention, be a little bit more, about, most little kids, right? They're the center of the universe, right? It's a great age to be, though. Too bad we don't remember it. But they may need more attention. And so if you're working from home, and your kids, they have homework, they have school, whatever the case may be, you may have more interruptions, all right, connected to your children. They can also be, might also be a lot more fun, okay? You may be spending some time with them and being able to play games with them, all right? Because 5th house is entertainment. So that might be something, depending, again, where you live. As the time passes and we get into June, maybe it'll be actually to go out somewhere, with the kids and do something fun, I don't know, play catch or something. Okay, go skating, whatever. So yeah, so Mars in the 5th house, got to say, is good. Now, it is about entertainment. And so, of course, we can entertain ourselves at home. But with Mars in the fifth house, because it's such an expansive house, houses 5 and 9, they're both houses of expansion. You're probably going to feel like you want to get out. You want to get out. You just want to sort of break free and go out and have fun. And I will say, if Mars is in your fifth house between May 13th and June 27th, the odds are good that you're going to be able to get a break, okay? And, have some fun and socialize, because fifth house, it's a house of entertainment, and that includes social activities, like, maybe going out to dinner. So by then, and again, I know it all depends on where you live, but you may really start to go out to socialize and just have some fun and really laugh. Now, if you are born under Sagittarius, okay, so Mars is in your fourth house. Now that's the home. It's the home you live in. It is the family. It does have to do with real estate, right? Apartments, homes, your parents, particularly we say mom, but it's parents, it's a parental house, right? And it is to a degree an intuitive house. But I'm going to say to you that if Mars is in the fourth house, is in your solar fourth house, and if you're a Sag, it is, well, May 13th to June 27th, expect a lot of action in your home. Now, when I say action, it just may be busier. You might be, and again, in a positive sense, maybe in the weeks to come, you're actually going to be able to have company, right? I mean, won't that be great? So it might be company. You might be making changes in your home. And by changes, I just mean like you may just get the bucket and the mop and say, you know what, it is time to clean this place and really, clean it. And may not be your favorite thing, but you may feel inspired certainly to do that. And I mentioned the company. The other thing about the fourth house. So it has to do, fourth house represents our home. Now, for some of you, Mars in the fourth house in and of itself, I'm going to say doesn't make me feel like, oh, you're going to move. It's more likely you can make a change in your home, and that could be rearranging furniture. It could be getting rid of things, all right? Feeling like you want to have more space, a little bit more freedom. But the other side of the fourth house is it rules every kind of property. So it is your home. It rules hotel buildings, okay? It rules hotel buildings. It rules cemeteries. It rules agriculture, and it rules your office. So if you've been working in a physical office, okay, whether you're working at home or you're still on the job, I'm going to say you can expect probably some action or some changes there. All right, something is going to be, something's happening because it's Mars. Now it is in Pisces, so I could look at it and say, oh, how fitting, Mars in Pisces. Pisces is connected to illness, quite frankly, right? To hospitals and, fourth house offices. What measures are they going to be talking about, or what measures will they be taking, right? In terms of COVID-19, right? Whether it's the distancing, etc. So I think work-wise, some of you can expect that as well. In terms of your family, listen, Mars, you might be laughing with them. You might be wanting to kill them. Okay. Again, it can be a little bit combative. So if you start feeling, a lot of bickering, it might be, could be the kids, but if there's a lot of arguing, just keep that in mind that it is the energy. So you can kind of blame Mars there if you want to. But that excuse isn't going to last too long. I'll be honest. But the reality is it could be bigger. Now, does it mean that everyone's going to be fighting and it's going to be like, oh my God, horrible to be at home? No, because here's the other side of it. Mars is action, right? And so it's also, and it's passion, right? So whatever we're passionate about, you might be out there gardening. And if you're not out there in a yard gardening, I don't know, maybe you got some little pots or something, and I don't know, you got little tomato plants or something growing, or flowers. So you may be passionate about something connected to the home. Maybe there's something you're going to decide to take action, like you're going to paint. I'm just going to say you're going to paint your apartment or something of that nature. So it can really be a very positive expression of Mars in the fourth house, is by either, I want to say sort of cleaning it up, and, something I should do, and I'll get to it when Mars gets to my fourth house, right? But when Mars is there, it isn't necessarily, I guess this is the point, it doesn't necessarily mean that everyone's going to be at everybody's throat. It can just be a lot busier. People could be coming in, people could be going out, and it could be a wonderful thing. Now, if you are born under Capricorn, Mars is in your third house. Siblings. We say local trips, right? Automobiles, definitely all types of communications. So I'm going to start with the communications, because here's Mars. It's in the third house, right? you do want to think before you speak. And it's not just thinking before you speak, because see, Mars is impulsive and it's in a hurry. So I am going to say, listen. Actually listen to people when they're speaking, because when Mars is there, it's more likely like we're listening, but we're also thinking of what we're going to say next. So in terms of listening, communicating, you just want to be just more conscious of it. So there's you don't have any misunderstandings. Now, could there be a lot of communications with Mars in there? Sure. And again, if you're on, you're working, you're doing emails, this is why I say, like, read it, think about it. Don't just, I meant boom, 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 and hit that send button. All right. Take that breath, because no matter what, I have to be honest, Mars is anger. And, just given the circumstances, there's so much tension out there. And if you're feeling that tension, right, we all have our moments. Let's, be honest. Cars, transportation. So that may be, when I say an issue, okay, for some of you, not that it means your car is going to break down or anything like that, but there may be some action that you need to take. So if your car is due for inspection or whatever, maybe, depends on where you live. There are actually some garages close by me, but if you need to do those things, I'm going to say take them in. Okay, if your car is due for inspection, make sure it gets done, things of that nature. Maybe if you don't drive, maybe this is a time you're thinking, you know what, I need to drive because I couldn't get Uber, I couldn't get Lyft, right? Couldn't get on the bus, couldn't get on the train, whatever it may be. So some of you might be thinking, you know what, either I need to learn to drive, or God, I don't want to do it, but it's time for me, I'm going to buy a car. So that might be something that some of you will be thinking about. Now, third house is also connected to education. We think of it more high school, right? Kindergarten to high school, or I guess nursery school to high school today is what we would say. And so again, there can be some news or some action going on along that line. Will some schools somewhere be opening before June 27th? Will there be classes anywhere where some kids will be able to get together? Well, third house, maybe if you have children in your area, maybe they will, maybe they will. But more than likely, if they don't, I will say you probably will hear news. Mars is in Pisces. Pisces could be not always truth, could be a little rumors going on. So you might hear, because it's in the third house of communications, everything that you hear, you may not be 100% sure. Is it happening? Is it not happening? But I will say there's probably going to be, practically speaking, it would make sense, right? But it depends, again, it depends where you live, how far it's going to go. But I will say expect some news in terms of the schools. Now, in terms of local neighborhoods, your local area, so to speak, expect some actions going on there. Now, Mars. So Mars is connected to some degree, because it is, we say it's the warrior. So it's got a connection to police, right? To authority, to police, to military. Though quite frankly, the sixth house, and in astrology, it's the sixth house that rules the armed forces and civil servants in general. But that Mars is authority, right? So Mars in the third house, there could be changes coming to what's being enforced in terms of tickets or fines. What are some rules and regulations? Now, Mars is not so much the rules, right? The rules themselves. But it is, because that's more from the government, that's more like Saturn. But Mars can represent the people who enforce the rules. The other thing, again, Mars, it is inflammatory. So in terms of neighbors, things of that nature, siblings, cousins, side-by-side relationships, as I've said for some of the other signs, if you've heard them, it could be a little bit argumentative. It could be a little bit easy, because here's the point about it. It's not that you're out there looking for a fight. Maybe you are, but it's more that you're not going to take it. If somebody's sort of pushing you, especially I'm going to say to you, if it's a sibling or a neighbor, it's like, I've been patient. I'm not patient anymore. Today, you picked the wrong day. Today is not the day. Now, anything else? I just want to think of, short trips. Well, Mars in the third house, maybe you are could be planning a short trip. A short trip could be, hey, I can finally go visit my cousin, in the next city or the neighboring state. So there could be something going on along that line. Now, thinking about this, Aquarius. So if you were born under Aquarius, Mars is visiting your second house, money, income, values. All right. So I think it's kind of a no-brainer with Mars in the second house when we say, wow, where some action is connected to money. And that can happen in a lot of ways. It could be that you're spending it. Okay, you could be spending money, and it might be decide that, you know what, you're doing okay, and it's like there's something you're going to buy. Maybe it's on sale and you decide it's a little bit of an impulse. Listen, I've been trapped in the house. I need something. I need a bigger TV. You know, whatever. You may be buying something, and that could be, again, a good thing. The other hand, you know, because with Mars in the second, sometimes like we spend quickly, so make sure you can afford it. But on the other hand, you may also be looking at your finances and your income and being proactive with it. And that could be, hey, I've got to start giving more to my retirement, or I have to, you know, got to start saving money because, you know, those taxes, okay, they're due in July. And this goes till June 27th, right? Mars is in the second house. So it might be these priorities of saying, okay, about budgeting. That's something else where your focus may be on budgeting and saving because, again, you know, looking at the future, it's about security, right? Second house, security. It's your income, it's your possessions. You might be looking at things and saying, what could I get rid of? What could I sell? You know, do I really need that old gold ring, or do I need that extra whatever it is that you have in your house? Okay, so you might be looking at things to sell as well. Second house is also about values, and so that is something, and you may find yourself very passionate during this time about what you value. And value, it's who is the most important to you, what is the most important to you, and values in the sense of personal values. That can be, quite frankly, philosophical, religious, it could be political, but you may be looking at the situation and saying, what is the most important to you? And it might be, hey, I would rather live in a more, I'll say rural or whatever area and not have to worry about something coming around in this density, right? Or it's possible that you might be thinking to yourself, well, I'm trying to think of another example actually about that, but that's one example. But in terms of what do you value, all right? And it may be that when it comes to your work that, you know what, you want a job where you can just stay home from work. Maybe you don't want to go back to the office. And even if you can go back and be safe, you think, you know what, I'd rather know I have something where I work from home. And if there's any interruptions, I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to, let's say, adjust as quickly. And then we have Pisces. So if you're born under Pisces, right, Mars is visiting your first house. And so I always like to say it's all about you, right? And that includes your approach to life, but it's also your physical, we say, right, your physical body. So here's what I'm going to say. Mars in the first house, on the one hand, it can energize you. You may feel a lot more energetic, right? A lot more passionate about things, a lot more alive. Great. Other side of it, though, is, again, if you push yourself too hard, you do have to be aware as a physical body. Mars, anything, be careful handling anything that is hot, anything that is sharp, anything, be careful how fast you go. Okay, and I don't care if you're walking, you're driving, or what you're doing, all right? But be mindful of that, because Mars is also about inflammation. And it is, again, an infection. And I'm not predicting that, oh my God, you're going to go out and you're going to get sick. But what I'm just going to say, inflammation can come from what you put inside your body. Okay, when Mars, because the first house really kind of, in some ways, covers, everything, because it is the physical body. So in some respect, that would take in things that we would think about for the sixth house, right? So it can also be that you really say, God, I want to make a change. You might really feel impulsive. I mean, suddenly, I don't know, you can get a haircut, and after all this time, you say, the heck with it. I don't know. I'm just going to cut it all off, or whatever you're going to do. But the point is, you could feel, do something impulsive connected to really, I'm going to say, to your appearance. It's possible. And it may be more about, oh my God, I put on weight since I've been home. Or maybe you haven't, which, yay. And it may be just something about the whole physical routine and just saying, you know what, I just went through this period and I need a different lifestyle. Okay, I need a different lifestyle. And your approach to life in general, because Mars is about initiative. Mars is about passion. And so you may feel more during these weeks to say, I want to, I want to, what is that? Grab life by the horns. That's grab the bull by the horns, right? But you know what I mean. I'm here. I'm embracing life. I want to enjoy every minute, and I'm not taking anything more, I'm never taking anything for granted, again. And because Mars is in the first house, I will say it does have a connection to relationships. And certainly we always say houses work in pairs, and it is true. But when Mars is in the first house, relationships sometimes do come into play. And it may not be so much, you might meet somebody new. Yeah, it can, but it's more about how you relate to that person. And so you might just be, more passionate about them. Again, you may just be a little bit more assertive, a little bit more aggressive. You might be more inclined to read them the riot act. Now, again, Mars is in Pisces, right? And that is about compassion. And so that is maybe the lesson that I'm going to say if they pissed you off, is to stop and think, and put yourself in their place and put yourself in their shoes. Okay. Now, for more insights, if you'd like some more insights about Mars, about transiting Mars in Pisces, just click there's a link below. You can click that link below and you can read about it on my blog. And then that wraps up this video. Now, I will be back in a few days, okay, to talk about the influence of Venus retrograde on the United States and as well, of course, on you and your chart as well. So thank you. And again, if you've enjoyed this, please like it, share it, leave a comment, and I'll be back in a few days. I'm Debra and Clement. And until then, may only the good be true.